Oh boy, I'm finally getting around to that video about immersion in AJATT. I can't wait to write the script. What could possibly go wrong?
Cool. Obvious.
Squeaky. Roar. Man bun is actually 2 words, and lose the man bun, you golly man weeb. Immersion is often seen as the guaranteed way to learn a language to fluency. But out of the millions who study and learn foreign languages, very few people are willing to pay the price of immersion. Most people aren't willing to sacrifice their old lifestyles and hobbies to learn a foreign language, and this is understandable. At the same time, there's a lot we can learn from programs that advocate immersion like AJATT, and even polyglots like Alexander Arguelles and Steve Kaufmann. The overall main message you'll find is that if you want to get really good at a foreign language really fast, you're going to need to spend multiple hours per day reading and listening to that language. For most people, language learning is just a hobby they do for 30 to 60 minutes a few days a week. If your goal is to have basic everyday conversations in the language, this might be all the time you need. If your goal is to understand almost everything in the foreign language, however, it might take you 20 years to get there at this rate. It's easy to get wrapped up in this idea that we have to study for 2, 3, or even 4 hours a day to reach the advanced levels, but this isn't true at all. In fact, the opposite is true. There comes a point somewhere in the intermediate stages where you can stop studying altogether and go out and live the language. This means to ask yourself this question every morning. What's one thing that would be really fun and exciting to try to learn from? Then, go read and listen to it. You might be wondering, but how do you learn from books, TV shows, and video games where everything's in the foreign language and you understand so very little? This is a great question actually, and one that has many different answers. For reading materials, however, the how-to is a lot simpler. It's simply to look up as many words as you need to and keep going until you find yourself continually getting bored. At that point, take a break, and then find something else to read and listen to. Here is where beginning language learners make the biggest mistake. This includes my past self, who made the same mistake for years while studying Korean. There's this tendency we have to try to study and review almost everything new to us. When we start reading, we immediately encounter thousands of words we've never seen before, so what do? We slow down the reading to a snail's pace so that we can practice and review all this new material. We make hundreds of Anki cards for almost everything new, or even reread material over and over in order to master it. The truth, however, is that there's no need to study nor review all the new language you encounter through reading. The only thing you need to do is more reading. If all these new words are so important, you'll encounter them again and again and review them through more reading. Each time we relearn a word through a new context, it makes it just a little harder to forget it the next time. This is also how we build upon our understanding of the multiple meanings and connotations a single word can have. I believe what's most important about Anki and other forms of review is their ability to make your progress visible during the beginner and early intermediate stages. They give you a sense of personal progress in comparison to native materials where it can feel like you're making no progress at all. You feel like you're moving in the right direction every time you successfully recall something while reviewing. But in the end, when you get into the habit of reading for a few hours every day, you can review hundreds or thousands of words you've already learned while picking up 25, 50, or even 100 new words a day. You might even find that an hour of reading can be infinitely more fun than an hour of Anki reviews. When it comes to listening and immersion, you'll find a large variety of strategies and ideas between AJATT and polyglots, but if I had to pick the most important idea here, it would be this one. Read when you can, listen when you can't, and whenever you think you can't read or listen anymore, you actually can. The trick is to switch materials whenever you get bored. In language learning, there's no need to finish anything, ever. You're finished when you're bored and not when you complete something. In a single day, you can jump from manga to an article on a news site like NHK or even Famitsu to an episode or two of anime or a TV drama to even more if you want to learn faster. For news articles, there's no need to finish the entire thing. Learn what you can until you get bored, and then just forget the rest. On the next day, you're going to find plenty of new articles to move on to. The same applies to anime and TV dramas. Learning just a few lines from each episode is enough to move on to the next. Turn off subtitles and keep them off until the end of the episode, and then use them to learn as much as you can before boredom eventually settles in. Once you understand the power of reading and listening over studying and reviewing, you'll find it naturally easier to spend more and more time in the language. When you finally stop studying and reviewing altogether, you start to really feel like you're not just learning the language, but actually living it. At that point, immersion becomes a natural consequence rather than something you force yourself to do. There's one last thing before I go disappear from YouTube for yet another month or two. These kinds of videos do take a lot of time and effort to make, but at the same time, I'd like to provide more content that is hopefully helpful, higher quality, and can also actually pay the bills. With that in mind, I've decided that I'm going to start a podcast over at Patreon. I believe in making my best content free and available on YouTube, but I also don't want to just take people's money without giving something back in return. So this podcast will be a mishmash of behind-the-scenes content, as well as additional language learning and self-development content. I'll also be taking and answering common questions I get. I hope to see you there, and as always, thanks for watching.